Hello and welcome to another video for ManageEngine ServiceDesk Plus, the cloud-based help desk solution. Today, we will be taking a look at the asset management portion. The assets are classified into two types: IT assets and non-IT assets. The IT assets are the devices which has an IP address, and the others can be classified as non-IT assets. The assets are scanned using a lightweight executable file called a probe. This probe needs to be installed on one machine in your organization, and from there you can either do a domain level scan or a network level scan and scan all the assets in your organization. So the asset scan is basically agentless. The probe can be installed only on a Windows machine. You'll be able to scan Mac as well as Linux workstations. Let's take a look on where you can download the probe and configure the scan. Go to Setup and under Probes and Discovery, click the probe link. From here, you can download the probe and install it on a Windows machine. And once it's installed, click on Add Probe button to configure the probe. Give a name associated to a site and click on Add. You have to register this probe by clicking Show Key and copying the key to the probe machine. Once the probe is active, you can go ahead and specify the scan. There are two types of scan: Windows domain and network scan. In the Windows domain, you will be able to scan your entire domain. You can configure the domain scan by clicking the New Domain button and choose the probe and give the details of the domain. Give the domain controller, the login name and the password, and a base DN if you want to scan a specific OU. The login name must be an administrative credential using which we will be able to log in to all the user's workstation. Likewise, you can also specify a network scan by clicking on New Network, where you can either do an entire network or a specific range of IP addresses. Choose the probe, specify the login credentials. You can also do SNMP scan by providing the SNMP community string. Click on Save to save the details. In order to initiate a scan, you can click the Scan Now button, or you can also schedule scan by going to Probe, click on the scheduler icon, and you can schedule scans on a daily, weekly, or on monthly basis. So that's how you can schedule scan and scan assets in your organization. Now let's take a look at the Assets section. Go to the Assets tab and you will be able to find all the assets that you have scanned or you have manually added. Choose Workstations from the drop-down to view the list of workstations that are scanned. Click on the name of a workstation to get the details. Here you find the details of the workstation like the name, the operating system, the processor, etc. On the right-hand side, you find when the asset was last scanned and whether the scan status was a success or a failure. You can also find out if this asset is associated to any request from the right-hand side panel. Click on the Hardware tab to get the details of the hardware that is present on that particular workstation, like the name, the operating system, the processor, the RAM, the hard drive, and how logically it's split. You will be able to get those details. You can also get the list of softwares that are installed on the particular workstation by clicking on the Software tab on the left. This will list you all the softwares that are installed on this workstation, and you can also manage licenses for it. Microsoft licenses like operating system and Office licenses will be found automatically. Rest of the licenses can be manually managed. In order to manage license for a software, click on the software name. By default, the software type will be unidentified. You have different types of software. If you want to add license to a software, you can choose Managed, or if it's a freeware, shareware, or a prohibited software, choose it accordingly. Let's say Managed for now and click on Change. As you can see, the compliance type is under licensed. Let's go ahead and add license. Click Actions and click Add Software License. There are different types of licenses like individual license, client access license, enterprise, even trial and volume licenses. I'm going to add an individual license for now, and I'm going to choose the option. Specify the number of licenses you purchased and the license keys that you got. You can also specify when you acquired it and when it expires by while adding the license itself. Specify the purchase cost if required, and you can also associate it to a site or to a department in the application, and click on Save. As you can see, the compliance type has changed to compliant, and you have the licenses listed below. You can associate a software license to a workstation by clicking on the license key button and choose the license. And that's how you can add software license and associate it to a workstation in the application. You can also add license agreements to a software by clicking the License Agreements tab. Click on New and specify the manufacturer for which you are adding the license. Specify the agreement number, the active period, the vendor you got it from, the attachments, and the PO details. You can also associate the existing licenses and set up agreement expiry notifications. So that's how you can add license agreement to a software. Now let's go back to the workstation and see what else you can manage. You can also manage the relationship of a workstation, like associating it with a user or with another asset. You can do that by clicking on Add Relationship and click on Usage Relationship. From here, you will be able to associate this asset to another asset or to a user or a department. You can choose the users from the drop-down or the department. You can also set whether the asset is leased. If this asset is under a contract in the application, you can find the details of the contract, and you can also add the cost for an asset, like purchase cost, service cost, or disposal cost. You can also get the history on an asset. You have two types of history: scan history and the ownership history. The scan history will show the differences between scans. Let's say if an asset was scanned last week and the asset is scanned today, if there is any differences, like a software has been installed or a hardware has been removed, those differences will get recorded over here. And if this asset changes hands from one user to another, you can find the details of that under the ownership history section. And that's how you can manage IT assets in the application. You can also add IT assets into the application manually or importing them through a CSV file. Similarly, you will be able to manage non-IT assets in the application and also asset components and softwares. If we go to the Software tab, you get the list of all the softwares that are installed on your organization workstation, and from here you will be able to manage licenses just like how we saw earlier. You can also group assets in the application and manage them separately. You can create two types of group: static or dynamic group. If you choose dynamic group, all the assets matching the below condition will be automatically associated to this group in the application. And static group is you have to manually assign assets to that group in the application. You also have a dashboard for the asset management in the application. You can access it by clicking on Home and choose the Asset Dashboard. In the Asset Dashboard, you can get a quick summary of the assets that are present in your organization for both IT as well as non-IT assets. You can also view Asset Dashboard based on site, region, and state. You also have a workstation dashboard showing you a quick idea on the number of workstations that are present based on site, region, or even based on the processor type. Scroll down and you can even find a software dashboard which shows you the software based on category, license status, and the compliance. Click on the dashboard drop-down and you have a separate dashboard for softwares. Here you can get the total number of softwares that are present, how compliant you are, what's the total number of licenses that are unused, rarely used, etc. You can also view the dashboard based on manufacturers and sites as well.